The if function has three parameters or inputs or arguments, whatever you want to call them, all separated by commas here. And what we have is a condition that's either true or false. And then we have the value if true and the value if false. These are the three things all separated by commas here. So if we wanted to say, okay, if if the value in B3, this number here, if it's greater than 100,000, then we want to show the word rich. Otherwise, we want to show the word poor. So I'm going to type equals, remember, because every formula or function in Excel starts with equals. And I'm going to say if, because this function is called if. And then B3, I could also just copy and paste this right now, but I'm going to type it out to show you guys. So B3 greater than 100,000. Okay, so that's my condition. If B3 is greater than 100,000, comma. If that's true, then we're going to return the word rich. And remember, in Excel, text values go inside quotation marks. Numbers do not. But if I want to return a text value, it goes inside quotation marks. Then comma, and then poor. So three values here, all separated by commas. So the first is my condition. B3 is greater than 100,000. And if that's true, we're going to return the first thing. And if that's false, we're going to return the second thing. I'll go ahead and hit enter. And look at that. It returns the word rich because this number is greater than 100,000. If we were to switch this out with another number that was not greater than 100,000, it would say the word poor. Okay, so now we're asking, okay, what would the formula return? This is another way of asking, okay, what would the result of this formula be? So if B3, this is the same thing we just did. If B3 is greater than 100,000, it's going to return this text value. It's going to return the word rich. Okay, so now we have a problem that says each dog gets 2 scoops of food if it weighs greater than 30 pounds. Otherwise, it gets 1 scoop of food. So we're going to write an if statement that returns a number of scoops that this dog Lily gets. So to write that, we're going to use the if function. We're going to say equals if. Okay, so if the weight is greater than 30 pounds, then it gets 2 scoops of food. Otherwise, it gets 1. So if weight D3, I'll go ahead and just click on cell D3. If D3 is greater than 30, okay, so that's the condition, comma, value if true, it gets 2 scoops. Otherwise, value if false, it gets 1 scoop. So this is a formula that says, okay, we're going to show the number of scoops of food that the dog gets based on the weight, the number in the weight row. So since we're saying, okay, D3 is greater than 30, is that true? No, that's false. So we're going to return the value of false, which is 1. And that's why we get 1. Okay, so now we're asking just from a different direction, what would this formula return if B3 is greater than 30? Okay, so is 35 greater than 30? Is that true or false? That's true. So we're going to return value if true. So if we wrote this formula somewhere on this spreadsheet, it would give us a 2. Now, if a dog's age is greater than or equal to 10, it gets 2 vaccinations. Otherwise, it gets 3. Okay, so number of vaccinations that Fluffy gets. So, okay, so we're going to say equals sign if, open parentheses. Now, if the age, C2, is greater than or equal to 10, then it gets 2 vaccinations. Otherwise, it gets 3. And the age is 4, so we know it's not going to be the true value. It's going to be the false value. So if we hit enter, we should get a 3 for number of vaccines. There we go. Okay, what would this formula return if B2 is greater than or equal to 12? Well, B2 is 12. So that would be true if B2 is greater than or equal to 12. So we'd get a 2. Movie theater charges $12 per ticket, but charges $8 for anyone 65 plus. Write an if statement to determine the price of Susan's ticket. So we'll say equal sign if. Okay, so B3 is the cell that contains Susan's age. So I hit my left arrow key there. If I type my open parentheses, Excel knows, okay, the next thing is going to be a cell reference. So then I can use my arrow keys to kind of zoom around here. So I'm just going to hit the left arrow key. If B3 is greater than 65, for anyone 65 plus, you know what? Greater than or equal to 65, because it's anyone 65 plus. Then the ticket is $8. Otherwise, it's 12. Okay, and now what would this formula return? B5. Okay, B5 is 65. So if B5 is greater than or equal to 65, which it is, then return 8. Okay, now this looks like the same formula, but it's a little bit different. It's not asking greater than or equal to, it's just asking greater than. And in this case, B5 is 65. Is 65 greater than 65? No. That's false. 65 is equal to 65, but 65 is not greater than 65. So I'm going to go ahead, and the value of false here is 12. If B4 is greater than or equal to 65, so B4 is 12, that's also false. So we're going to return the value if false, and that's 12.